Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my old friends and welcome to my new friends. And I am so happy that you are going to be tuning in and listening and watching my latest stories. I'm Daryl Ann, and as you may remember, my channel is Wit, Wisdom, and Wine. So I'm kind of shortening it and just making it WWW with Daryl Ann. I hope you enjoyed my former stories, and I've got a really, really good one for you tonight. I think you'll like this one, maybe better than my story about the first job. First, I want to make a little bit of a caveat. Any names that I mentioned before or in the future will be fictional to protect the names of the innocent and the guilty. So I'm just winging it with these names. So I want to make sure that, everyone is aware of that. So here we are today in the Northeast. It is a warmer day. People are feeling like spring might be actually coming, even though there's a lot of snow on the ground outside. But there's a feeling of hope. Spring is approaching. COVID is seemingly getting a little more under control. A lot of people are getting vaccinated. We're all feeling hopeful. And returning to our normal life is something that's our goal, as long as we're all safe and we're all protected. So, but it's still COVID time. And so here I am in my home in front of my fire. And I've got some stories. You may remember that I talked about my first job with the New Jersey Bell Telephone Company. And I had that job during the ages of 18, 19, and 20. During that time period, I had a really, really good bunch of friends. And I had one friend in particular whose name was Susan. Susan worked with me, and she was a wild and crazy, crazy girl back then. Very colorful, very funny. And she and I hung out a lot together. And when I say hung out, back then it meant bars, the local bars, or watering holes. Bars were the places back then that all young people congregated after work. If they were legal age to drink, they would hang out, and it was a great way to meet people. And I think over the years that did continue until things changed, of course, with online meeting. So it was a big social place, and we had our favorite bar in a suburban town. And Susan took me to the bar one night and said, Daryl, there's really this really great guy that I want you to meet. He's a friend of her boyfriend Frank's. And she said, I think you're going to like him. He's funny, he's smart, and he's very good looking. Oh, okay, I'm for that. So about 10 minutes later, in walked a man named Bob. And I say this with such deep affection and happiness when I talk about my meeting with Bob. We got along really well. We were drinking our beers. And back then, we had, don't laugh, but we had like jukeboxes that played music. Like you would go in and put a quarter in and the music would come out, And we danced. And so we hit it off. We really did. And the next time I went to the bar, Bob was there. And the next time. And so things started to steadily progress in a really good direction. We started doing a lot of things together, and with Susan and her husband. So during those years, I was working at the telephone company, and you may remember that I left in a storm, okay, my own storm of the making, and quit. So it was time to find another job. And there was a very big city in the state where excuse me, folks, in the state where I lived. And there were a lot of good jobs there. So I applied for a job as a secretary. Back then, they were called secretaries. Now it's executive assistant or admin assistant or whatever. But back then, it was called secretary. And I had acquired some skills in high school, some business skills. So I applied for a job as a legal secretary with an attorney in this city. And I went for the interview, and lo and behold, he turned out to be a fine old Irishman. okay, whose name was John J. O'Malley. And he sort of liked the fact that I was another Irishman back then. It was kind of, oh, you're Irish. Oh, you're Italian. Oh, you're Jewish. Wow, great. I interviewed, I passed the test. Mr. O'Malley said, hey, you're hired. Wow, was I happy. I mean, it was a good job for back then. And he seemed, like a really funny, good guy to work for. So I started my job with Mr. O'Malley. And like all other jobs or many other jobs that will continue in my lifetime, maybe yours, started off great. He was a big family man. He had 6 kids, was very well known in the city. Actually, he had decided when I was working for him to run for mayor of this city. And he came up with a plan. He wanted to know what his opponent was doing across town, his opponent who was also running for mayor. And he came up with this idea. And he said, you've got this very honest face. How would you like to spend a week being a spy? A spy? Wow, really? Me? Yeah. How about you going over to the headquarters of my opponent and pretending you were volunteering? And find out for me what they're doing, what their campaign is all about, and report back to me at the end of the day. Oh, wow, okay, can I do this? Yeah. Well, turns out that I could do it. I went over, volunteered. Oh, I met the new guy running for mayor. Okay, great. You want to volunteer? Yep. Okay. So I did. And I picked up little tidbits of information which I would report back to Mr. O'Malley. Meantime, Mr. O'Malley started to get a little more personal and friendly with me, asking me things about myself. And he would kind of wander around the office, and if I was at my desk typing away on what was then a typewriter, a typewriter, he would come up behind me and put his hands on my shoulders. Oh, how are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, you're doing a great job. Right. Oh, okay, thank you. Let's face it, I was 20 years old, and I was very gullible. So I did my stint as the spy across town, and when that was up, we got back to our task of Mr. O'Malley then running for mayor. So things got really busy. And along with that job came dinners, handshakes and appearances and whatever. So he would ask me to go with him on these dinners. Meantime, as Bob and I became closer, we decided to take the step and become engaged, which was like a fabulous, happy day for both of us. So we became engaged. And the wedding was planned for maybe 8, 9 months in the future. So I told Mr. O'Malley, I said, I came into the office one day. Wow, I'm engaged. Really? He said, aren't you a little young for that? I mean, I said, well, how old were you when you got married, Mr. O'Malley? I used to keep bringing the conversation back to his wife and kids. I instinctively started to feel like maybe I should do that. Oh, yeah, well, I was a young man, but a lot of water under the bridge now. Mm-mm. Okay, so one day I came into the office and he said, really, Daryl, I think it's time that you really started to think about coming out to dinner more with me. We can catch up on a little work and I think it'll be very pleasant for you, treat you to dinners, and I think, you'd enjoy it. Oh, well, I'll think about it. I kind of secretly wanted to talk it over with my fiance. Back then, you had to get permission from each other for, what you were doing. Wasn't as much independence, let me just say, as there is now. So I mentioned it to Bob, and he said, I'm not so sure I'd like the idea of my fiance having dinner with Mr. O'Malley. So he started to become, kind of apprehensive and a little suspicious. Okay, a couple of days go by. Came back in the office, starting to do some work, and Mr. O'Malley decided that he was going to be even a little more friendly with Daryl Ann. So he called me into his office and came around the desk and got real close. And then I realized, finally, he's putting the moves on me. oh my gosh, this married man is putting the moves on me. What am I going to do? Oh no, I did like this job, even though I was feeling a little uncomfortable. So I backed away, came out into my office, immediately called Bob, who was also working in the same city down, a few blocks away. As it turns out, it was great. We used to sometimes meet for lunch. So I called him and said, I'm really starting to get worried. I'm really starting to get worried. I think Mr. O'Malley is really putting the moves on me now. Really. All right, I need a sip because this gets good. Okay, that's my Chardonnay, remember? Okay, so Bob, in a very steely voice, said, okay, why don't you hang up and we'll talk later. I had, at that point, started to really know Bob more. Now, we're talking about a big, strong, good-looking former Marine, okay? With a bit of an Irish temper and a little bit of the gift of gab, among many other wonderful things. So I sat there, and about half an hour later, I heard footsteps running up the stairs. We were working upstairs, running up the stairs. Oh, what's going on? Bob burst into my office and said, where is he? And I said, oh no, no, Bob, no, please, really, it's okay. No, it's not okay, Daryl. Follow me. I said, he's in there. Bob burst open the door to Mr. O'Malley's office. He was sitting behind his desk, looked up in total shock. What? Who is this? I said, this is my fiance, Bob. With that, Bob walked over to Mr. O'Malley, where he was sitting behind his desk, and said, okay, Mr. O'Malley, I've had this now. How dare you put the make on my fiance? How dare you? You're a family man. You're a married man. With that, Bob grabbed the lapels of Mr. O'Malley's jacket and started to squeeze. Mr. O'Malley, of course, freaked out, started shouting and screaming at him, jumped up, ran across the room, stood in the corner. Bob was threatening to go after him. I was trying to intercede. Please, it's okay, really, we'll just leave. And O'Malley says, you better goddamn right you're going to leave. I'm calling the police right now. This is physical violence against me. I'm calling the police. And I went, oh my God, no. So Bob said, okay, all right, turned around and said to me, hurry up, we're out of here. I ran, he get your purse, got my purse, just hysterical, frantic, and he grabbed me. We ran down the stairs, laughing, and I was crying and laughing at the same time. We heard O'Malley back there yelling at somebody, probably the police. As it turns out, I don't think it was, because they didn't come after me. Anyway, we ran to the latest watering hole that had just opened up around the corner. We decided to christen it. Got in there and started having a lot of beers. Laughing. Wow, this is great. Okay. So that was the bitter end to my second job. Okay. You may remember the first and how I left. Well, this actually topped that. Okay. I have told this story many times with fondness, and Bob and I actually years ago, told that story, embellished it a little bit. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I really do. I was thinking that when I was talking about these jobs, I'm wondering if you out there remember your first jobs. Was it years ago? How did you leave that job? Or maybe a second job? It's sometimes fun, to look back and say, where was I then? What did I actually do? So I, again, have told you that I have many more of these stories as time goes on. And while it didn't mean that I piled up lots of money and lots of benefits, I piled up a lot of stories that I'm really happy with. Just to make a note about a little bit of wisdom thrown in here, I don't think I really need this particular specific wisdom about today when you think about sexual harassment in the workplace, okay? Just imagine, how we finally got it right, how all these years, we finally got it right. But back then, there was no such thing. Fair game, men and women, fair game. So just think about how different things are now from what, the way they used to be. So I want to actually be making more of these videos and telling more stories, and I really, really hope you enjoy them. I want to make you laugh. I want to give you a little wisdom. I'd love it if you subscribed, to my YouTube channel. That would be really so neat. And I want to close with a sentence that I have really said many, many times over my well-lived life. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I hope you really have a great day, a great night, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.